Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Nothing But the Truth with me, your host, presidential candidate for 2028, maybe sooner due to political laws. And let me tell you, when I say that I'm going to do something by standing up for you guys, I mean it. And there will be President Reverend Dr. Allen Dillon, because unlike the narcissistic, authoritative dictator was sworn in on Monday, but has already put so many things in place that proves not only his narcissism, but where he stands, which is not for the people, because it's all about him. It's all about I. That's why we need to remember that together we thrive. Because even when I'm president, it will be with you guys, for you guys, as you guys, not just myself. But let's go into tonight's show, to where I'm going to show you exactly the extent and how far Trump's narcissism has reached, to where it's going to cause America and Americans of all race, creed, color, sexes, everything else, to descent away from our leadership, for the simple fact he is solely doing what he wants for him and his Trumpanites, his Maganites, and his millionaire and billionaire buddies. And let's start tonight off with the biggest narcissistic move that Trump made. So, when President Carter died, President Biden, he followed the U.S. flag code that all flags throughout the country, military bases, even around the world, embassies, all that they all fly at half staff for 30 days. That has been the tradition for every single president who has passed. But not when narcissistic Trump wants to be inaugurated, because he said that all flags were to be flown at full mass, full staff, until the day after his inauguration. How much more cynical, how much more diabolical, how much more could you spit in the face of your American people by disrespecting a fellow president that died? Shameful does not even begin to cover it. So let's dive into some of the memorandums and some of the other things that he signed on his first day, in order to let you know exactly how ironclad this case is against him for narcissism. The fact that not only he, but this advantage is going to be cleared from the White House. because I can tell you that there is a law that will help us get there. So, one of the first orders that Trump wrote is holding former government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive government information. That is the title of the executive order he signed. Now, how is he going to sign an executive order that literally puts him up immediately for impeachment because of his interference with the 2020 election that led to January 6th, which, all that doesn't matter, all the damage that was done because he pardoned everybody. Then he writes an executive order titled Ending the Weaponization of the Federal Government that directs the Attorney General to identify and take appropriate action to correct supposed political motivated law enforcement activity at the Department of Justice, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Federal Trade Commission. The order also calls on the Director of National Intelligence to do the same with regard to the intelligence community. So, again, remember this title, Ending the Weaponization of the Federal Government. Because he turns around and he makes this order, restoring accountability for career senior executive. Trump asserts that career senior executive service officials, a classification of civil service officers who serve just below the presidential appointees and hold various employment protections and are subordinate and accountable to the president. The directive calls on federal agency heads to reassign or replace senior executive service members to optimally implement Trump's agenda and prioritize accountability. Now, if you guys remember, Trump also claimed throughout his entire presidency that, I don't know nothing about Project 2025. I have no part in that. I have no dealings with that. Nothing. Yet, he's turning around and putting all these memorandums in place to where it's subservient to himself, to where it's toe the line, cup the MAGA balls, or you're gone and you're fired. And this next executive order is why I say that. Because it's titled Restoring Accountability to Policy Influencing Positions Within the Federal Workplace. Restores and amends an executive order from his first term and rescinds a Biden executive order that effectively makes it easier to hire and fire certain federal civil servants with an eye toward loyalty. Now, in Project 2025, it talks about a hit list. It talks about getting rid of those who were not Maganites, who were not Trumpanites, who were not going to just nod, smile, toe the line, that they were going to, let me read this part because it'll finish. An addendum to the reinstatement states employees in or applicants for scheduled policy/career positions are not required to personally or politically support the current president or the policies of the current administration. They are required to faithfully implement administration policies to the best of their ability, consistent with their constitutional oath. But Trump adds, the vesting of executive authority solely to solely in the president. Failure to do so is grounds for dismissal. I mean, I know that him and Putin were buddy and everything, and he looked up to him. He was kind of like a hero. Again, this is leading us towards dictatorship, authoritarianship, and so many other things that totally goes against what our Constitution stands for and what the office of president is supposed to represent, what the vice president is supposed to represent. As we continue, establishing and implementing the president's Department of Government Efficiency that renames the U.S. Digital Service. Again, that's something that Snowden broke open for everybody and is considered a traitor. As the Department of Government Efficiency, now known as Dodge, whatever you want to call it. A new agency Trump controversially promised to create and install Elon Musk as head of. The order gives Doge advisory powers to maximize government efficiency and productivity. Here's the problem. But the non-government advisory board is already facing multiple lawsuits, including one alleging that Doge violates the Federal Advisory Committee Act, which oversees the public accountability of federal advisory committees. Now, I thought that we weren't supposed to be weaponizing the federal government. Anybody else catching on to the oxymoron part of this and the fact that it's more of a do as I say, not as I do situation? So let's go further. Memorandum to resolve the backlog of security clearances for executive office of the president personnel. Trump ordered the White House counsel to provide the White House Security Office and acting chief of security officer with a list of personnel that are hereby immediately granted interim top secret sensitive compartmented information TSSCI security clearances for a period not to exceed 6 months to address supposed backlogs that have prevented workers access to the White House complex infrastructure and technologies. Some have criticized the move for lacking transparency. The only case where this should apply, obviously, are to people who did not qualify for a top secret security clearance. Also, will the public be able to know who gets the special Trump clearance, or will the list be private? Because let's admit, we're not weaponizing the government. We're just giving top secret, class A, tier 1 access to everything, even for, president's eyes only, because, him and Elon Musk are such buddy. So, I mean, he already asked his advice as far as the budget went and had his Trumpanites halt, because Elon thought it needed to be trimmed down. So now, here's the other part to where a lot of people are going to be very pissed and will further descend from and, disconnect from the current administration, is the fact that proclamation declaring an invasion And the executive order is titled Guaranteeing the State's Protection Against Invasion, citing the inability to conduct comprehensive medical and criminal background checks at the southern border, as well as emergency tools of the Immigration and Nationality Act. The proclamation suspends entry by any alien engaged in the invasion across the southern border of the United States. It also calls on the head of Homeland Security, Secretary of State, and Attorney General to take all appropriate action to repeal, repatriate, or remove any alien engaged in the invasion across the southern border of the United States. So that means that this is the start of his protect the border and shut down the border, because the next one says executive order titled Clarifying the Military's Role in Protecting the Territorial Integrity of the United States, which effectively authorizes the United States military to create a plan that would deploy troops to the southern border. Now, if that's not bad enough, there's another proclamation declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States. Trump declared a national emergency that calls for military personnel and resources to help secure the southern border, including through additional physical barriers as well as drones. Now, you guys know as well as I do that drones are not just to take pretty pictures and to film. They carry weapon loads. So does this mean that Trump, just like the first year and a half of his first term, and he authorized more drone strikes than Obama's entire presidency and Bush's entire presidency combined? I will repeat that. So you're looking at 16 years of authorized drone strikes within 18 months, surpassed that number almost by double. Okay? That is something you can fact check. So, I mean, that this is just absolutely ridiculous. The fact that for somebody who claimed the first time around that he wasn't a wartime president, seems like he's ratcheting up for something, because the problem is that while he focuses on the South, he's not paying attention towards the West, because telling you, now that Trump's back in office, China's going to make their move. But let's go back to some of the other things that are going to get people to pull away. So, executive order titled The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, or Global Tax Deal. Trump officially withdrew the U.S. from a landmark agreement on the universal corporate minimum tax ratified by nearly 140 countries. Okay? I'll repeat that. This is something that was signed by 140 countries. Even the richest ones, the AUE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. But no, he said, but the global tax deal, which the U.S. signed in October of 2021, would have ended competitive reductions in corporate tax rates. Gee. Let's remember back to when he was in his first term and he gave the most historic tax break and tax cut for corporations in U.S. history. Seems like somebody's just, getting their feet wet and causing problems. Hiring freeze. Ordering a pause on recruiting federal civil employees and executive branch effective as of noon, January 20th. The memorandum, however, has some exceptions, including that it does not apply to military personnel, to positions related to immigration enforcement, national security, or public safety. It also asks the director of the Office of Management and Budget to submit a plan within 90 days to reduce the size of the federal government's workforce through efficiency improvements and attrition. Sounds like the same thing Stalin did when he wanted to just have, followers, and that's exactly what it is. But here's the best part, is that at which point the hiring freeze will be lifted, except for the IRS, for which the freeze is indefinite. Because, hey, if we're going to be cutting taxes for all those greedy corporations and everything else, and not having it be a level playing field with the other now 139 countries, because we made 140, but I mean, come on. But here's the worst part, okay, is that the executive order, just like I warned about protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship, aimed at effectively ending birthright citizenship by redefining it as such, it would not apply to a person born in the United States to a mother and father who both were neither a lawful permanent resident nor a citizen when the person is born. This executive order already faces legal challenges and is explicitly as it explicitly undermines the current understanding of the Constitution's 14th Amendment. Well, let me tell you something. If that's the case, then that means Ivana's got to go. And it seems to me that he's literally only targeting those from Central and South America. He's being very specific, not to mention anybody who came over here like during World War II. Even if they weren't a citizen yet, but they were in the process of gaining it, if they didn't have their citizenship, then guess what? Every single generation after that is not a citizen. That means, like I warned, first, second, third, and so on. I mean, that's outrageous. And that is why I'm saying he is trying so hard to get America to cause a rift. He is literally stirring the shit pot, so to speak, because he wants a reason to legally be able to say, especially those of Hispanic origin or Latino origin. I told you so. I told you they're the problem. Or, same as he did the Muslim ban, he's going to be targeting them. And, I mean, he's got his buddy Elon Musk. You know, he's already locked down behind the presidential shield doing the Sikh how. So, you know, there's your anti-Semitism. So, like I said, he is trying to cause dissent in America, even with the Native Americans, the original Americans, because executive order titled Restoring Names That Honor America's Greatness, to where obviously he wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. But here's the one that pisses me off, is that he wants to return the name of Denali, which it was requested in 1975 by the state of Alaska, but ignored until Obama passed it in 2015 to honor the mountain's sacredness to Alaskan natives. But Trump is going to switch it to Mount McKinley, because McKinley was the first to, you know, get to the top. But here's the problem. See, Denali, the meaning is mountain that touches the sky. It's sacred, you know, and Trump doesn't understand these things because, I mean, he's also put in Alaska that the national forest, you know, that is federally protected, that his whole drill, well, guess what? He wants them to drill in that national forest in Alaska where there are certain animals that are endangered and everything else. He doesn't care. He even has put in that, you know, to have that Endangered Act waived. I kid you not. And just to let you know, I am getting all of these from right there. That's right. This is from Time Magazine, from online. So, you know that Time is legit. And, you know, here's another one to where, where are we going to go from here real quick? Oh, here we go. Protecting the United States from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats. Intensifies the vetting and screening of visa seekers, particularly those aliens coming from regions or nations with identified security risk, as well as refugees or stateless persons. The order is reminiscent of the Muslim travel ban from Trump's first presidential term that he promised to bring back. Now, again, I mean, this is just ridiculous. But I want you guys to just wake up, think for yourselves, and understand. We need to do this by coming together, because together we thrive. Not doing it individually, not doing it as separate groups, but coming together all as one. And remember, no matter how much we are pissed about all these things, we have to be non-violent about it. Because if we give in to the violence, and if we do anything to antagonize Trump or to break any of his little rules and everything else. All he's going to do is lock down the United States with martial law. But then again, all he's going to do is cause a civil war if he tries that, because guess what? Yeah, our reinforcements within this country outnumber every cop, army, federal personnel, everything. 3-1. So, just saying. But that is my time, ladies and gentlemen. But remember, together we thrive, united we stand, but divided we fall, and causing pain increases problems. Nonviolence is the answer. So, may God, Yeshua, and the Holy Spirit bless you, your families, your loved ones, your friends, protect you from your enemies, protect you from the enemy. Shalom, shalom, and assalamu alaikum. Have a good night.